Hello and welcome to Undeniable Masterclass. I have an admission to make before we continue. I was on my morning walk with the dogs when this undeniable inspiration struck, and I knew that no matter what happens when I get home, I have to get a recording device and sit down and allow this transmission to come through. So I'm sitting here on our veranda, a balcony, overlooking a castle and rolling hills of the Alpine foothills. The morning is still waking up, the birds are chirping in the background, so you might be hearing some of that along with the actual content. So I do hope it inspires you. I do hope you can feel the energy exuding through my words. Um, So, as I mentioned, Undeniable Masterclass was something that has been brewing for a while. I did a soft launch a couple of months ago and it was very well received. And then I kind of sat on it, knowing that with time I will know exactly where it's meant to be and how it's meant to evolve. So, here we are. All right, so to kick it off, I want to ask you probably a simple question. Have you ever been in a space and somebody walked in and you just felt their presence? You knew that they entered the room, you could feel it. And when you looked at this person, you couldn't quite put a finger on it. Is it the way they dressed? Is it their smile? Is it their body language? Is it how they communicate with others? Is it what is it? You can't quite know, but you can feel it because their whole package, including the energy, is just undeniable. And then I want to ask you, have you ever achieved a milestone, an achievement, a bold move, a result that seemed to be out of your reach, beyond your wildest imagination, that everybody was telling you it's not going to work? But you held that vision, you held that knowing that it's meant to be, that you're the one to do it, to realize it, to bring it to life. And you went through the motion, you went through the moves, you went day to day, navigated the sometimes conflicting realities of that one that you knew was awaiting for you and the one that you had to navigate in real 3D life. But still, you were able to hold both and you were able to navigate and maneuver both until the day when it finally happened. What was it about you? What was it about that thing? It was undeniable. You held it in undeniable ways and you became undeniable to it. That's all there is. So there comes a moment in our lives when everything shifts. And sometimes those shifts are created by us, and sometimes they're induced by life itself. Have you ever been in a situation where, it feels like life has pulled the rug from underneath you and you're standing and you feel for a moment that you're certainly just a bystander in your life and everything is happening, everything is unraveling and things are coming to life and to the surface that you have no control over, things that you were hoping to be done with, things that you could have sworn have been dealt with and you have healed and you have moved on and you have resolved, and then everything is just again right in front of you, needing your attention, and you're just paralyzed, not knowing what to do, and all the knowledge that you have, all the experience that you have, all the things that used to work, just that they don't work anymore. I know I have been there quite a couple of times actually, um, and I know that feeling when it is like you're standing in a glass box and you're just watching everything through those glass panels that you just can't seem to break, and it can be frustrating at times, and then you can move through the almost like what do you want to call that phase when you're just like whatever, leaning back and like it is what it is, you know. And then it comes that moment when you're like, oh no, 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 no. I am retaking the reins of my life and I am shattering this glass. However, whatever it takes, I don't know what it's going to be like. I don't care what it's going to be like, but what's on the other side, that's where I'm meant to be, right? Um, Oftentimes, when we go through that phase, we are so focused on the past and trying to diagnose what is it that triggered that shift. Um, what could have been done differently? What were some of the mistakes that we made? What were some of the signs that we did not see? But the bottom line that I offer here is that as much as that is important to know, of course, I would offer that looking forward could easily be even more powerful. I'm not suggesting to just sweep everything under the rug, to resort to bypassing, not at all. But dwelling in what was and keep on digging and digging and digging and digging and digging just to see what else is up there to be dug up, I personally have found that to be counterproductive. Perhaps it's an athlete in me, um, where through focus and determination and obviously talents and my self leadership and guidance of coaches around me, I was able to move mountains and come back from setbacks, come back from defeats, come back from health issues, come back from, you know, situations that oftentimes would just leave people defeated and they would go different direction. And the competitor in me, the rebel in me was like, oh no, I've got this. Um, but it was always because there was some North Star. It was something guiding me, pulling me forward. It was something greater than me. So, this undeniability, what I'm offering here is can be cultivated. Um, I want to offer very, for the time we're spending here together, I want to do something. I want to offer, like we just did, some examples, some of the personal experiences. Then I want to offer some mindset and perspective shifts that you can be with, you can work on, you can cultivate, you can master, you can activate actually and embody. And then I'm going to offer a couple of questions that you can journal on. And those questions, they might resonate with you today. They might just fly right over your head today, but might resonate when you're re-listening this in a couple of weeks, in a couple of months. Richer for an experience with a changed perspective of life itself. Whatever it is, right? And as you're listening this in a year or in 2 years, you might be noticing how there were things that maybe you missed the first time around or the second time around, but now you're catching them, or you are catching them differently. They're landing differently because you're evolving yourself. And it's just like through those stages when I mentioned when you're sitting in a glass box, and you go from disappointed to pissed to content to all the spectrum of experiences and emotions and beliefs and what else, right? So when we're talking about becoming undeniable and making that North Star of yours undeniable, so that it's not just a match in a logical sense, but that energetic match, we got to start somewhere, right? And usually that is a honest reality check. So I would like to offer to you that you take a moment, take a deep breath, and allow yourself to be really, really honest. No judgment, but just honesty. What is going on in your life? Where are you? What is what was it that inspired you to come here and to get access to this recording and to sit through it and listen through it and absorb every word? Why? Was there a reason, or is there something that you're seeking on the other side of it? And I also want to offer that you distinguish between decisions that you made based on logic versus this full body decision when you just felt it, full body knowing, when you just felt it, that this is it, that was pulling you, right? What is it? Now, when you're looking at where you are and when you're meant to be, how does it feel when you look at that gap and you think about building the bridge? Do you feel optimistic? Do you feel scared? Do you feel overwhelmed? Do you feel disconnected? Do you feel like there's a ton of, oh, I should be doing this, but I'm not quite sure? Do you feel like, oh, I can totally see how this might work, but I'm afraid that it won't? Are you recalling all the times in the past when you attempted something and it didn't work, and right now your little voice on one of your shoulders is just like, yeah, not worth it. Why even try? You know it's not gonna work. Why would you even, look up for something and be excited just to be disappointed on the other end? Yeah, those voices can be quite persistent and quite realistic if we let them. But here's the first three mindset shifts that I would offer. When you're looking at the in the distance at the thing that is calling you, that is pulling you, first there's uncertainty. And uncertainty might not be just in what the building of the bridge will entail. Uncertainty can also come from the fact that some of us, we just don't have that clear vision. It's not the realistic painting with every single detail worked out when you can see the whole picture. For many of us, it's just like a glimpse, like seeing a shooting star and trying to capture that split second. That's how many of our visions are coming through. And this innate knowings that something's calling is just this flare, or sometimes just like this whisper of the soul. It's not shouting, it's not obvious, it's just, there's just something there. So it can feel very uncertain if that what we're attempting is even it. But I would offer that uncertainty is not a threat, but simply an invitation to start leading from within. Stop waiting for external guidance, stop waiting for external signs, stop waiting for external permission, because you're the only one who can cultivate any of that. So, start to lead. Now, you always, 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 always have a choice. You can choose to just stand still and not do anything. You can choose to make a move. And sometimes taking a couple of steps backwards, it's still a move ultimately leading forward. It's not just the choice between leaping forward or standing still, okay? But not choosing is still a choice, and that is what oftentimes keeps us stuck. And the third one, we're talking about those shifts. We're talking about the life pulling rug from underneath us, things shattering, the things that all used to work and be reliable, not working and not being reliable anymore. People who we leaned on certainly walking out of our lives, and so on and so forth. We have no control over any of that. But what we can control is the narrative, is the story we tell ourselves about it. So, 3 journaling questions that I would like to offer are this. First one, what shift am I facing or resisting right now? How have I been reacting to uncertainty? Do I freeze? Do I fight it? Do I try to ignore and avoid it? And third, what would change if I saw the transition as an opportunity and not a setback? So ultimately, to summarize this part, is that first we name the shift. What exactly has changed or is changing? Because let's see, if you have clarity, then there's no confusion, right? Secondly, we're editing our reaction. We're identifying and realizing that, you know, we're not victims. We're in survival mode. We're in creator mode. And that each one of those, victim, survivor, or creator, have very, very, very different mindset, have very different energetic blueprint, have very different, I just call it quotient of undeniability. Okay? And then we claim our phases of power. We can actually choose a sentence that will set the tone. Not necessarily affirmation that we're just repeating, but we're looking for something that we can feel. Again, it's a full body experience. For example, I am bigger than this moment, right? That could be one of them. So now we're moving to the identity expansion of breaking free. And why this is important is because, again, the biggest challenges in transitions, they're not skills, they're not strategies or opportunities. It's the identity of us. This actually reminds me so much of a conversation I had during that soft launch. And the person on the other side said, you know, I am a rebel. I do things my own way. And if there's a routine, I will surely break it, and so on and so forth. They have also trusted me with the fact that they had a really challenging upbringing with high levels of expectations of order and certain processes and protocols and how things should be done and what was expected of them. So this rebel identity is what they identified with, without realizing that at this point in time it started to hinder them, hold them back. So what I offered was that perhaps the structure that they were trying to avoid was not a prison that they perceived thus far, but maybe they still needed a structure just like an artist needs a structure. An art and the process of creating that art will be vastly different if the structure, aka the medium, is a clay, or if that is a canvas. And even then, is it a round canvas? Is it a squared canvas? Is it a small one, or is it the freaking largest canvas you have ever seen? So just that little realization allow them to suddenly connect the dots and integrate the experience, the expertise, the intellectual capital with the decades of practice, mastery, vocation, vision, all of it, to start now moving into the direction of the dream, the vision, the knowing that they have been denying for so many years, because it was just in between of this rebellious approach and also this, well, it needs a structure, it needs to look in a certain way, so dot dot dot. So I offer here that you assess your identity and see where is your old identity, which is also your convictions, your beliefs, your narratives. Where are they holding you back? And what are the pieces that you can use to expand on to step into your next level self? So, a couple of perspective shifts are simply that you are not your title, you are not your job, you are not your past results. You are the source of your success. However, you define that success, however, you define whatever those results and titles and accomplishments and yada 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 have been for you. The second thing is that the transition, like you're facing right now, it's an opportunity to upgrade identity. It's not the end of it. And I would also offer something that mostly women are facing. It's this imposter syndrome. First and foremost, I do not believe in one. I believe that it's simply a man-made thing, oftentimes used to have us feel that we are not deserving of opportunities, have us feel that we are not qualified, have us feel doubtful and hoping we won't even proceed because this quote unquote imposter syndrome will overpower our will and willingness and ability and capability and capacity to show up. So if you're experiencing this, I offer that it's not a sign to stop, but a proof that you are growing and an opportunity to lean into it and move through it. So the 3 journaling questions I'm offering here are very straightforward. What part of my old identity am I afraid to let go of? So here we're shifting from what I feel is holding me back to what am I afraid to let go of. So have at it. Take your time with this. No right or no wrong answers, only your answers. And even those will change through time. Second one, if I could no longer define myself by my current role, who would I be? That's a big one for high achievers, for athletes, for executives, for anybody who has established their own brand, who is known by whatever there is. We are conditioned that we are this thing. The world knows us as this thing, and we tend to dismiss 99.9% of other aspects of us, because none of us is just this one thing. And then, as you work through that, the last question would be, what qualities already exist within me that belong to my next level self? This steps into what I said earlier, leveraging your stories, experiences, expertise, intellectual capital, and all of that. We're not looking to just dismiss it. We're not looking to say, oh, that's not worthy anymore, you got to start all over again. No, it's a stepping stone. All of it is a stepping stone, and now you just get to choose which ones you're taking with, which ones you're redefining, which ones you are retiring for the moment. How are you doing thus far? Another thing when we're talking about kind of like a strategic summary of this part here is this one can be fun one. It's called Old Identity Breakup Letter, where you literally write a letter to the version you are no longer, that no longer fits. So thank that version, release that version with love and appreciation, deep gratitude. Um, and then, you know how when I mentioned earlier, a person walks into the room, commands the presence, and you're just not quite sure whether it's their outfit. Possibly before they arrived, they were at home in their closet in front of a mirror trying on a couple of outfits. Chances also are that they already know exactly what works for them, what makes them feel undeniable and expansive and noticeable and noted. Um, so, just like that, why don't you have fun with trying on your future identities? Just like a dress up for a day. Make decision as if you already were the person you are becoming and see how that goes and where that takes you. And then, personally, I use this one a lot. It's using the power of my own voice, of my own resonance. And I record things for myself when I'm in distress, when I feel inspired, when I just need to process things, when I'm working on ideas. But yeah, just recording and hearing and feeling the resonance of your voice can be incredibly powerful. So pull out the device that you have. We all carry one around in our pockets and just start recording. I am becoming ... I am ... and then listen to that daily. It's almost like a self-hypnosis. It's freaking powerful because let's face it, we are always talking to ourselves, but most of the times, as somebody once said, if those conversations were audible, we would probably be imprisoned for abuse. That's most of the time how we talk to ourselves about ourselves. So shift that practice, make it positive, make it empowering, make it undeniable. The next part, if you're ready for it, we're talking here about strategic reinvention and taking control and aligning our lives and our businesses and whatever it is to our next level. And here we are moving from mindset to action. And I'm going to give you practical tools to navigate these actions, determine what those even are supposed to be for you. So, the best time, I would say, to reinvent yourself, it's not when you are feeling ready, but it's when the opportunity presents itself. And this is your opportunity, and opportunity is one of those when you are standing on a ledge and you're just like, okay, whatever, I'm jumping. I have built a parachute. If not, I'm going to build one on my way down. Also realizing that while you have been sitting on that ledge, sometimes, some of you for years, looking at the horizon of your dreams and visions and knowings and callings and so on and so forth, on this ledge of yours, you have already built a McMansion. It looks very comfy. It looks glorious. You have furnished it to your liking. It fits you, it suits you, the views are great, but it's not quite it anymore because what you're after, what you're called for, is on the other side of that horizon, right? So, are you gonna leap? Are you gonna start climbing down and across the void to it? What are you gonna do? So, the first mindset perspective, as you're building the strategy of, oh, how do I build a bridge? How do I get there? What do I need to do? Do I need to change my business model? Do I need to change my pricing model? Do I need to shift my scheduling around? My kids' school schedules have changed, so I no longer have afternoons that are entirely free. I need to chauffeur them. So what do I do there? Am I hiring help at home? Do I just suck it up and work till 2 in the morning? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Realize that strategy itself, without that identity work, is going to be a sabotage. Because, how many of us have already decided what we wanted to do and what we should be doing, but we actually never get it done? Or we get it done as the old selves, literally knocking down with our tails that are still dragging like a long tail behind us what we have just built looking forward. The second way of shifting the perspective as we're looking at the horizon, it's not necessarily this huge momentum leap. It's micro moves, one step at a time, one day at a time, over and over and over and over and over and over again. I would even offer that the first step is the easiest. The second one, the third one, and staying the course, that's when the dance really starts happening. The passionate tango between should, would, could, want, don't want, must, I get to, but I don't want, it's getting hard. But I thought it's gonna be easier. Oh, now I'm distracted. Oh, now my kid is sick and I need to cancel my day. And oh, this didn't work out. Why do I even try? I should have done it. I should have known it. I've done it before, it didn't work. We have all been there. But again, one step at a time, staying the course, dancing, passionate tango, or paso doble, if you will, or waltzing through, whatever works for you, or whatever day brings. Sometimes it's going to be passionate, sometimes it's going to be more like dragging yourself out of the bed, just still doing this. The third thing that I offer, speaking of, everybody's now needing me here and I need to do this and I can't do that. I need to prioritize their needs over mine. Have you ever heard the term boundaries? A simple no is a full answer, and a powerful yes can change everything. Boundaries create the capacity that you require and deserve to get this done. And capacity is just not physical capacity. Listen, the easiest thing for you and I to do right now, if we were, is to sit down, look at our schedule, and find 10 hours in a week. That is the easiest part. I can guarantee that most of you here have 10 extra hours in a week without even knowing, if you really wanted to create them and find them and invest them towards that is calling you, that is emerging, that you're destined for. That is the physical capacity. But now we're also talking about mental, emotional, spiritual capacities. So here it's really important to learn that yes, you can continuously grow the bucket and make it bigger and bigger and bigger, but you also have to start emptying what's already in there that no longer serves you. That goes back to the previous section we were talking about identities and what's holding us back and what we're redefining, reimagining, refining, and so on and so forth. So, in this part, I want to leave you with 3 questions to be with, to journal on, to contemplate on, to meditate on, whatever your preferred method. First, if I had no fear or limits, what would I start, stop, or change? Right now, today. Second, what area of my life or business feels misaligned or outdated? That is a tough one. I can tell you from my own experience, because there's just so much emotion attached to what we have created. All the, not just hours, but weeks and years we have invested into building this one thing. It's really hard to admit to ourselves that it's no longer aligned, that it no longer works, that it's outdated. In many cases, we are still working on the same principles that worked just last week. Things are changing so rapidly in some areas of our businesses, even lives. So this is going to be a really big one that takes a lot of toll, a lot of strength, a lot of clarity, and a lot of self-leadership to crack, to be honest. And then the third one, if I had to pivot my career in 90 days, where would I begin? And here's what I offer that you already have the answer. You already know. And you know it by how it feels. Because all the shoulds and woulds and coulds are logical. They're in our heads. But what really is ours, you feel it in our body. We feel it with our body, and it feels limitless. It feels expensive. It feels light. It feels enabling. Everything else, it's like a dark cloud, a weight on our shoulders. It feels heavy. So really make this a somatic experience. Feel the answers. So then actionable steps, again, some of us thrive on 90-day plans. Some of us thrive on 15-year plans. Some of us thrive on just having simple milestones work out. You know you. You know what works for you. So then I would also offer that you look around, not just for yourself, because certain things are not just depending on us, but also on people who are around us, on our circles. And look at your offers and networks and your habits and everything that impacts your decision making, everything that impacts your mood, quite frankly, on a daily basis, and do the audit. What it works, what doesn't work, what serves you, what is in alignment, what is no longer in alignment, and approach it from that next level self. Okay? And again, scheduling these fun stuffs. If you don't have a capacity on the calendar, probably won't get done. So see how you can adjust your days, how you can adjust your routines, how you can adjust your priorities. Because if this is as important as you say it is, you're going to find a way. Last but not least, now we're talking about integration. To really owning your undeniable future, undeniable self, undeniable whatever it is, becoming a energetic match with that. So again, I want to stress this out because it's really, really important. Being and becoming undeniable is never about not facing setbacks. We are going to face setbacks, but the mastery of it, it's choosing to lead ourselves no matter what. And it's not so much, oftentimes we just want to rush things, and we are on certain timelines, but then realizing that time is just a construct, and process of becoming undeniable has its own timeline. And for some of us, things will happen in a really, really, really quickly. For some, it might take years. For some, it might take lifetimes. Doesn't mean it's not meant to. And I saw a quote somewhere, just because, it seems harder than for others, it might just mean that you're meant for greater things. So again, self-guidance, self-awareness, and this noticing of the progress no matter what. So ensuring that you can feel that shift within and walk away feeling empowered with clarity and ready to make that move towards whatever that is for you. Perspective shift number one is a little poke here. Clarity without courage is a wish. Just like a plan without action is a wish. So decide who you are and move from there. Decide what you want and move accordingly. I would also offer that when we talk about taking action and we talk about making moves, we are also working in multiple dimensions. Just because something feels stalled or stagnant or perhaps even moving backwards in a way in our 3D reality here doesn't mean it's not getting rearranged in other dimensions. It doesn't mean that things are not being done on other levels, and that we are just recalibrating, in a process of recalibration, to then being able to move forward again. Um, the second one is that being undeniable, as we said earlier, it's showing up and doing the thing before you feel ready, because somebody might offer that by the time you're ready, it's already too late. And that we're not here to prove anything to anybody. That's not the name of the game. We have probably proving something to somebody is probably what led us here, one way or another, in the first place. Especially for those of us high achievers who have conquered the world, who have moved mountains, who had mountains move for us. A lot of it, I would dare to say, stems from wounds that we're trying to heal, gaps that we're trying to fill, or voids that we're trying to avoid or detach from. So we overcompensated on that part, trying to prove something to somebody. That's what fueled us. But then again, at one point in life had other plans, or it was like, okay, great, you got this. Now it's time for a real lesson. Now it's time for real you. Here, oops, did I really do that? Did I just pull the rug from underneath you? Oh well. So, the questions to be with. First, who am I choosing to be from this moment forward and the next moment until the next moment? What is the one fear I'm willing to face to become undeniable? Here, I would remind us all that becoming undeniable, it's not a linear path. It's more likely like a ascension up a tower, literally going in circles, but higher and higher and higher and higher. And with every single window, the view of the landscape below us is going to change. It's going to be an elevated view. We're going to be able to see farther, and the skies are going to get clearer, most likely. But this spiral process is going to bring us to the same fears over and over and over and over again. But the beautiful thing is that each time we're going to face them differently. I would also dare to say that each time processing of that will take less, and there will come a moment when you will see it coming and you'll come prepared, and it's just going to be like, oh, okay, hi, and you keep moving forward. Things that used to consume you and paralyze you for weeks will now just be a little speck on the stairs, and like, oh, I need to scrub this off. Okay, let's go. Next. And then the next question, the final question today that I offer here is, what is my new definition of success? And does that feel like freedom? You know, we talk about success and freedom just like it's some, I don't know, arbitrary thing, or that it's something the most basic and the simplest thing. But the thing is that most of us, for most of our lives, have lived by somebody else's definition. If you're in coaching circles, you have probably defined success by 6-figure launches, 7-figure launches, you know, going from 0 to 7 figures in 3 months. If you're in athletic space, probably the ultimate success is gold medal at the Olympics. Everything else is just like meh. If you're a career person, it's this consistent climbing of the ranks until you get to the top and then maintain your position at the top. Otherwise, it's just like right? If you are looking at your cars, what is success usually presented with luxury cars? If you don't have them, and if you drive a Toyota, you're like, but really, is it really that what success is? Only you know what success is for you. For me personally, I know that definition itself has shifted many times, and not just consecutively, but in parallel with many different aspects of my life. My success as a mother feels differently than success as a wife, feels differently as success as a mentor, has a different definition than success as a business owner, has a different definition of success as just a human being. So there are many of those, and you can feel like an ultimate failure in one but thrive in the other, and vice versa at the same time. And there is just, again, a passionate tango, a waltzing through it all. But only you know what that success feels like for you. Same goes for freedom. What is freedom? How free are you? Are you free to do something, or are you free from experiencing something? Then again, a lot of that will also depend on your location and your environment. Let's face it, a lot of what's going on around us defines how much we can or cannot do. Things are, whether or not we like them or to be that way, but they are systemic. So there's only so much most of us can do individually. That's why it's utterly important to surround yourself with the right people, with the right mentors, with the right masterminds, with the right cheerleaders, if you will, with the right network of like minded people who will elevate you, who will exalt you, who will come, what's the word I'm looking for? Complement your skills, your expertise, because together we can go further, we can achieve more than ourselves. Yes, sometimes it feels like going solo, we can go faster, but speed itself is not a measure of many things in on a big scheme of things either. So I've had many clients who, on paper they had it all, and on paper they have done it all every single day, committed to their success, committed to self mastery, getting up in crack of the dawn to go through their personal development routine, physical wellness routines, only to collapse at the end of the day, barely making it to their bed, only to start all over again the next day. And what that indicated to me quite quickly, and I said to them, with the most love and support and admiration and respect that I could, what you're trying to do here is light a match underneath the water. You have to get out of the water, and then the flame will be there. But the spark right now is dying every single time, and all the work that you're investing is just to keep trying to spark it, keep trying to spark it, keep trying to spark it, or just to keep your head above the just enough so you can breathe, so you can get through. And sure enough, I would say within the last couple of years, I would say 3 out of 5 people that I worked with, and then also myself, we have relocated. Some just to different states, some of the other side of the country, some on, including myself, to other continents entirely. So yes, environment plays a vital role here as well. So be mindful of that. But that's a whole conversation for a whole other time. So for today, like I said, becoming undeniable is a process. Becoming and being undeniable is just as important as making something undeniable to you, this vision, this knowing, this goal. Um, so for kind of bring this full circle, I would like to leave you with a thought that however you may feel today, whatever there is, you're not lost, you're right on time, and that it's not just about your desires becoming undeniable to you, but you becoming undeniable to them. All right, so with that, I want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for committing to yourself. Thank you for trusting your capability to transform your own life. And thank you for just being so daring and audacious to do so. Most people talk about it. Here you are doing it. Take care. Talk to you later.